Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this exclusive preview of the forthcoming podcast called Reppin, as in representation. We're going to have great guests from all backgrounds, notable people from the worlds of entertainment to public relations, education, and more. These are all people you may think you know, but we're going to go beyond what you've seen and read and bring them and their stories to you. Reppin will be available September 23rd on Apple Podcast and Stitcher, so like it, share it, and represent it. And take a listen. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the premiere episode of Reppin, a podcast all about representation. But you can represent a lot of things, like race, gender, ideas, values, and really anything that shapes who you are. I'm Evelyn, and I've been a television producer and director for over 20 years. So I've had the great opportunity to speak with some really interesting people with incredible life experiences. I want to bring those people and their experiences to you. My goal? I want to promote understanding, inclusion, and empowerment, and to celebrate humanity together. My guests will share their thoughts and stories, and you'll gain insight towards what inspire them, challenge them, see what lessons they've learned, what they believe in and fight for, and you'll see what they represent. So my first guest is an extremely talented author. She's got 2 books on the New York Times bestsellers list, The Hate U Give, which was also made into a major motion picture, and on the come up. So I'm excited to kick off Reppin with the incredible Angie Thomas. Angie, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So I know you're from Jackson, Mississippi, born and raised and still residing. What I didn't know was that you also have an unofficial degree in hip hop.
I just say that.
What is that about? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that's mainly because I know so much about hip hop. I'm such a hip hop historian, and I know just so many songs too. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I wonder how many songs do I know? I think there are fewer songs that I don't know than there are songs that I do know as far as hip hop. I know a lot of weird facts about rappers and stuff too. So I just feel like I gave myself that unofficial degree.
I like it. I was like, where can I sign up for that class?
So I wish. I'm sure there's something out there at some college, though.
Yeah, but I'm sure I'd fail it, unfortunately. Now, being in Jackson, Mississippi, what was it like growing up there? Tell me a little bit about what it was like in your neighborhood, what it was like for you as a kid.
Growing up in Mississippi, I didn't know things were as hard as they were in my neighborhood, specifically when I was a kid, because my mom and my grandmother shielded me from so much. Sheltered me from so much. And then too, my neighbors, they were like my family. And even the people who society would have told me I should have been afraid of, I wasn't. Like, for instance, like the drug dealers in the neighborhood. You know, for us kids, they would get us ice cream and chips and stuff when the ice cream man came through, or they'd protect us when perverts came in the neighborhood, stuff like that. I grew up with an interesting view of the people who I should have been afraid of, and then the people that I shouldn't have been afraid of, like the cops. I was afraid of the cops, but I wasn't afraid of the drug dealers. So that's how I grew up. You know, that's how it was in my neighborhood in Jackson. It's the kind of place where you learn a lot and you can grow, but you also get a stark view of this country as a whole.
It's so interesting, the things that you're talking about, because when you have such a, I guess in some ways, a role reversal of being afraid of police, and the drug dealers in your neighborhood are the ones that are looking out for you. How did that shape you as a kid, like growing up?
You know, I grew up looking at the majority and seeing how they would quickly judge the people that I cared about, and looking at that in a certain way and taking that and internalizing it to an extent. I think that's what drew me to hip hop so much, because in hip hop you have this attitude of me against the world. That was actually a name of a podcast.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have this whole attitude of me against the world. You often feel like the entire world is against you. And so you almost don't give a you know what. You know what I mean? Like you get to the point where you like, they're already not going to like the way I do things. They're not going to like me. They're making judgments about me. So why not just be me, period? Who cares? I eventually had that mentality. And I think it carried on now into adulthood as a writer. I write from that similar lens. I write from the lens of these are the people that the world writes off. These are the people that the world criticizes, the world judges. But for me, these are the heroes of my stories. And my characters have to come from a similar place of the world is going to judge me. The world is going to make assumptions about me, but I still have to stand in my truth. So I had to learn that early on. And I think that reflects in my writing now.
I would imagine that's both a really difficult lesson, but also really empowering, that freedom of being like, I don't care. I'm just going to do what I do and be who I am. Can you talk a little bit about sort of that contrast as a child? I mean, it couldn't have been easy.
It was, because I thought that was the norm.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
That was normal for me. And so I think the hard part, though, was the struggle and witnessing the struggles that my family had, and when society was not making ways for people like us, and people in my neighborhood, all of us were struggling to some extent. And that was hard, feeling as if there's this big race that's happening. And every time it feels like any of us get closer to the finish line, they move the finish line.
Oh, God.
That's what you start to learn and even internalize as a kid, that this is not a society or a country that's made for people like me to benefit. And that's a hard pill for any kid to swallow. But that's definitely, when you're a marginalized kid, that's a hard pill to swallow. Learning soon and quickly. I think all of us have those moments where we realize that we're not the ones who are supposed to succeed the way the system is set up. And realizing that kind of at an early age of, wow, I'm a young Black person in a country that doesn't even want me to make it. That's hard to deal with. So it makes kids of color grow up quick. At times, it's a stark realization. But I was lucky in the sense that my family gave me support in the midst of that realization, understanding that I had to work twice as hard to be considered half as good.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was a hard realization, but that didn't mean that I still wasn't going to work twice as hard.
What age did you sort of face this realization? And what did your family say that continued to help you overcome that? Because that's a really tough lesson, I think, for anyone at any age, let alone a kid.
Yeah, I think for me, it was when I was in elementary school. I want to say third or fourth grade. And I ended up transferring from the school in my neighborhood to a school for gifted kids. And it was in a nice neighborhood and all of these sort of things. And it was a very diverse school, but it was mostly white kids. And going from my school and suddenly to this school and seeing, oh, wow, at this school, these kids have these kinds of books.
Right.
These kids have new books. They have computers. We didn't have these new computers at my school in my neighborhood. Wait a minute. These kids from these very well-to-do families are coming in here with knowledge and tools that I can't afford, that I wasn't given. Wait a minute. They have something that I don't. And I didn't realize that was called privilege.
Right.
And coming to the realization, too, that, wait, the schools in my neighborhood and even the houses in my neighborhood look a certain way, but the houses over here with these kids, wait, they're nicer. Wait a minute, you guys don't hear gunshots at night? I hear gunshots at night. You don't? And I think that was that moment for me going to that school when I realized there are two different worlds right here in my own city. And it's possible to live in a world unlike my own. So that was when the world expanded for me. And I remember talking to my mom about it. And I was like, why is it that they can have all of these things at this school and my old classmates can't have them? Or why is it that they can have houses like this? And she just had to tell me that, yeah, they have different lives. Yeah, those kids are coming in with different advantages than what you may have, but that does not take away from your worth.
Ooh.
That does not take away from your value.
I love your mother.
This is just the world we live in, and you just have to know how to define yourself and never let the material things do that. And yeah, I know that you're smart. I know that you deserve to be there just as much as anybody else. And I need you to know that you deserve to be there just as anybody else.